Okay, we are live. Did anybody have any problems getting in?
Well, the link for tonight said it was for September 29th. And then I went on to and logged into the link you had for Zoom for the executive meeting and it took me to this. So
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
We thought maybe we'd overload the network with Terry's and reached our capacity and it shut it down.
Well, don't bring me into this.
hi, Terry.
Hi, how are you?
Doing okay.
Good.
While we're waiting, Mr. Donnellan, how are you?
Wonderful, Mr. Marks. How are you?
Doing just fine. It's good to see you.
Did you enjoy your designated day within the village of Gulf Manor?
Well, that was full of pomp and circumstance.
So it was celebrated significant to the day's importance.
It was amazing.
I think you even got a Bengal win on that day.
Oh, yeah, I think we did.
Yeah.
I should remember that because there aren't many.
Right.
Mr. Donnellan, I would like to congratulate you on your pitmaster skills.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed.
Those ribs were spectacular.
So
Thanks.
everyone, we are live on the website.
All right.
And Mr. Mayor does not have sound. Okay, 1 moment.
Thank you, Roger. I wanted to thank everyone for your patience. We are having a lot of technical difficulties on this side right now. I don't know if you can hear the echo. Maybe that will work there. We had some problems with folks trying to log in from the existing link on the website, and I was one of those people and had another individual who I was hoping to have join us this evening, and he is still unable to get on, Mr. Hirth, using the link. That's on the public website. And so if you will indulge me a little bit longer, I'm wanting to make an appointment tonight. And the person I'm trying to, yeah, that is so loud. I can't hear myself. Yeah.
Hey, Stefan.
Yes.
I told Ron that the link on the council packet directed you to the September 29th meeting. So you had to go to the one on the executive committee meeting for tonight, and that brought me to this.
Yeah, that's, I had the same problem too. And then when I did it that way, I finally was able to get in, but initially I was not. I tried all the links. They were all saying that.
We'll troubleshoot it at the meeting.
Okay. We will, if you'll just indulge me for one more moment, I'm going to tell this gentleman that we'll have to do his appointment at another meeting, and then we'll get started. Okay. Just one. All right. Have we had verification that we're live? Okay. If you would, then please join me in the normal way that we start the meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance, as you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, today is the 12th day of October 2020. And the first thing that we're going to do is do a roll call for quorum. Can you help me out with that, Mr. Lancer?
Mr. Betcher?
Present.
Ms. Cheney?
Present.
Mr. Knipp?
Here.
Mr. Pridnoff?
Present.
Ms. Snyder?
Present.
Mr. Van Harn?
Present.
All members present.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Lancer. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the agenda, and do I have a motion to accept it?
Motion to accept the agenda.
Second.
Your second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I will say that that's unanimous. And we'll note that there are no registered speakers for this evening's meeting. Our protocol for that is, I think the cutoff is like noon or something on Fridays. We did not have any registered speakers since then as well, as far as I know. Our next item here is for approving of the minutes. I'm going to read several dates into the record and then ask if there's a motion to change any of those, or if there's a motion to approve them as a bunch. The July 13th, 2020 special public hearing for the 2021 tax budget minutes. The July 13th, 2020 special council meeting minutes. The July 14th, 2020 special public hearing on the referendum petition for ordinance 2019-10. The July 14th, 2020 special council meeting on referendum petition for ordinance 2019-10. Did I just say that twice? No, sorry. And then September 29th, 2020 special council meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll
Do I
second
have?
all.
All right. I'm going to ask our legal counsel, are we supposed to, I'm trying to remember if I can just do a shout out, or do I need to do a roll call vote for minutes?
No, you can do a voice vote to approve all of them
Okay.
as a group.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Without objection, I take that as unanimous. And we will move on to the mayor's report. Everybody. And I see that my special guest is here. Thank you, everyone. I have Mr. Wilkinson joining us this evening. I mentioned in my previous report that I had heard of some interest in a resident joining our executive committee, and that the chair of the executive committee had had an opportunity to talk with him as well as the administration, but that I had not yet. Well, since that meeting, I've had two opportunities and have spoken to him at length, on those two opportunities, and was impressed by his demeanor and by his interest in service to the community. And so I offered him the job and he accepted. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to ask him to take the oath of service to the village. And so if you would, Mr. Wilkinson, it's Rob Wilkinson. He lives on Elbrook. And what I'll do is I'll state it line by line. And if you unmute yourself, if you would just repeat after me.
Okay.
Do you, Rob Wilkinson, solemnly swear?
Do I, Rob Wilkinson, solemnly swear? Do I have to raise my hand? I'm sorry.
Yeah, please.
Okay, all right, there we go.
To uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States of America.
To uphold the Constitution and laws of the United States of America.
The Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio.
The Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio.
The charter and laws of the village of Gulf Manor.
The charter and laws of the village of Gulf Manor.
And to fairly and faithfully perform the duties.
And to fairly and faithfully perform the duties.
Of the office to which you've been appointed.
Of the office to which I've been appointed.
Please reply, I do.
I do.
Welcome and thank you again for your service to the executive committee.
All right, thank you very much.
And I appreciate your flexibility. Mr. Wilkinson, like myself, had some children that go to bed at 7 o'clock, and this is a school night. And so I had moved this to the beginning of my report so that he could excuse himself as he needed to attend to his fatherly duties. Thank you so much for your flexibility tonight.
Yeah, thank you for your flexibility also. I look forward to joining a full meeting and getting to talk to you guys a little bit more.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Rob, when you get a chance, could you touch base with me?
Yes, I will.
Sounds good.
You want to do that tomorrow or?
That's fine. Just give me a call during the day.
Okay, all right, I'll do that.
Thank you. Congratulations.
All right, thank you very much.
I also want to make sure that everyone knew that we'll make sure that once the COVID concerns have subsided, we'll do a more formal and warm welcome of Mr. Wilkinson, where everyone can better get to know him. All right. So the next item on my mayor's report has to do with the federal holiday of Columbus Day. Columbus Day was first officially proclaimed by President Benjamin Harris in 1892 to mark the 400th anniversary of Columbus's landing in the Bahamas. I had no idea that the first acknowledgement of any kind of a Columbus Day was actually 400 years after it happened. Had no idea about that. Franklin Roosevelt established the first federal observance of Columbus Day in 1937. Again, I had no idea that that was like so recently that we had a federal holiday called Columbus Day. I just thought we always had it. Colorado was the first US state to make Columbus Day an official holiday. And since 1971, the holiday has been celebrated on the second Monday in October. At its best, the holiday in the US celebrates the Western discovery of America and Italian American pride. The celebration doesn't just occur here in the US, but throughout the New World countries in North and South America, but they don't all call it Columbus Day. Some of them call it Discovery of America Day. That's in Honduras. In Argentina, they call it the Day of Respect for Cultural Diversity. They've been calling it that since 1917. All right, so before our 1937 declaration of the holiday. Our Columbus Day is known as the Day of Races, not the Day of Racists, the Day of Races in Mexico, Uruguay, and in Chile, Race Day, where it's the celebration of diversity among Native Americans and Europeans. In Venezuela, it's known as Indigenous Resistance Day. So I thought that was another kind of like interesting thing with respect to that history is written by the victors. 14 states here in the US, Alabama, Alaska, Hawaii, Idaho, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota, New Mexico, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Dakota, Vermont, and Wisconsin, plus the District of Columbia, and more than 130 cities in the United States observe Indigenous Peoples Day today instead of or in addition to Columbus Day. Indigenous Peoples Day is said to honor the past, present, and future of Native peoples throughout the US. It's said to recognize the legacy and impact of colonialism on Native communities and to celebrate the cultures, celebrations, and resilience of contemporary Native peoples. So with all that in mind, happy day today. And on to the COVID update. A reminder that our website has a page devoted to the most recent COVID-19 news as it relates to Gulf Manor, including a map of COVID-19 testing sites, how to file a COVID-19 public health complaint, the most recent COVID-19 statistics for Hamilton County by zip code. There's also links to web pages devoted to helping renters navigate the special COVID-19 renter protections that follow from the moratorium on evictions that's scheduled to last through December 31st, 2020, and to help both tenants and landlords navigate the Hamilton County eviction courts during this time. I'll also have another reminder of the closest testing sites for our residents, which are at 1740 Langdon Farm and 7005 Reading Road. Those addresses can be found in my mayor's report from last council meeting, which is on the website, and it will be in this one as well, which will be put up on the website. Governor DeWine continues to offer us the opportunity to have free testing here in Gulf Manor. There have been some expressed opposition to this occurring, but I believe we can address all the challenges involved. But don't want to pursue it without the support of council. So if you have interest in bringing testing to Gulf Manor, once again, I'll say let your council members know, and council members bring it to my attention. COVID-19 Halloween recommendations, I believe, have been out there in several places. Generally speaking, it's masks under masks, continue to social distance, respect people's desire to not participate by, not knocking on doors if the lights are out, and the additional recommendations that have been passed down from the County Health Board is if you have a bag full of candy for that your kids have received, that the safest way to deal with that is you use Clorox wipes to wipe the wrappers on those candies before you're giving them to the kids. And with that, the most recent health department update to elected officials, which happened last Tuesday, and then I'll get another one tomorrow, is what I'll go over right now. In my previous mayor's report, we were at orange level of emergency. That's a determination that the state health department makes about the level of contagion occurring in individual cases. We've since been raised to a higher level of emergency, the red level of emergency, which was a surprise to a lot of folks here locally, given that at our elected officials meeting, our local health director had said that he wasn't, that wasn't going to happen. Didn't say it wasn't going to happen. He said that he was confident that it wasn't going to happen. So in last week's call, he spent a lot of time explaining why he was wrong or what he wasn't looking at or the factors that he wasn't considering. And what he explained was that he had not noted that we have a number of regional hospitals in Hamilton County that take patients from outside Hamilton County. And those numbers increase, folks coming in from out of county. And that's what pushed our numbers. The state looks at multiple factors, and the other factors were all stable and consistent with us being at an orange level. But the number of people in our hospitals was going up, and that was being caused by folks coming in from out of county because we have regional hospitals. So that was the explanation the elected officials were given at last Tuesday's meeting. And again, I always update you whenever I get new information from that meeting, but that's the most recent information that we got about that. Hamilton County is still at level 3 red, and the state makes its determination about any changes on Thursdays. So we'll know this Thursday if that changes. Hamilton County Emergency Management Homeland Security continues to offer free PPE to community-based organizations and nonprofits, including disinfectant wipes and spray, hand sanitizers, thermometers, gloves, etc. Just need to ask them. So if you know of a community-based organization that could use personal protective equipment, let me know or call 513-263-8200. They anticipate that they will continue to have the ability to be giving this equipment, these materials out for free well into 2021. Interest in requirements for nonprofit partnership with the Village of Gulf Manor is the next part of my report here. I've been interested in ways of partnering with nonprofit organizations to enhance the resources available to our residents since I first joined council, and I've met with our administration, with our legal counsel about how to formalize a process for entering into such partnerships. What we've come up with is 4 documents that a potential nonprofit partner would need to provide. The first one is a letter from the IRS stating their tax exempt status as a 501c3 and their employer identification number of that organization, their EIN. Next is the copy of the business details and filings page from the Ohio Secretary of State website. So if you go to the Ohio Secretary of State website, you can do a business search, and then there's details about the organization that will come up when you do that. Shows that the Secretary of State knows that this business is in existence, and they just need to print out that sheet that shows that Secretary of State knows that they exist and what the Secretary of State has to say about them. Third is the proof of charitable registration with the state of Ohio. So that comes with a copy of organizational details printed from the Ohio Attorney General's charitable registration webpage. So very similar to the Secretary of State's. You go to the Attorney General's charitable registration website. This will all be in my mayor's court report with links on it. You click on that link, you can do a search for the nonprofit organization. The whole purpose of the Attorney General's website is that if you as a resident of Ohio want to donate to a nonprofit, you can use this website to make sure that that nonprofit is in good standing, that they're not defrauding people out of money, that kind of stuff. So when you go to that website, you can search for the nonprofit that you're interested in. And what a nonprofit that wants to partner with us needs to do is provide a printout of their organization on that page And there's two ways you can look at your organization. As an expanded, you click on a button, it expands it, and it shows your board of directors as well. If you don't expand it, it doesn't show your board of directors. We want the copy that shows your board of directors, who your board of directors are as well. So that's the third thing. And then the fourth thing is a copy of the organization bylaws with the accompanying signatures of the original board members who ratified the bylaws. So this is a lot to do for an organization that's in formation or otherwise in the process of registering with the Secretary of State and the Attorney General, but it can hopefully be useful as a roadmap in doing everything you're required to do as a nonprofit in Ohio. For organizations that are in existence for a while, this complete process of what we're requiring takes about 15 minutes at the most. So I believe it's something that, it's not a high hurdle to do, and it is potentially very helpful for new nonprofits that are interested in working with Manor to use as a roadmap to actually be in good standing with the state. Again, very happy to have welcomed Mr. Robert Wilkinson to the executive committee tonight. I want to take this time again to encourage anyone who's interested in getting more involved in the community, contact any of our council members or myself. There's a lot of ways you can be involved. And there are many groups and government committees, and any one of us would be happy to help you find a place to get more involved. And that is the end of my report. So with that, I will ask for the village administrator's report. Mr. Hirth.
Actually, Mr. Betcher is next on the agenda for the vice mayor's report for this meeting.
I apologize. I completely missed that. Mr. Betcher, please forgive me.
No worries.
Vice
I'll be brief. Thank you, Mayor Densmore. I just had one item that I wanted to report on. I just wanted to take a moment to recognize and send sympathy for the passing of your grandfather, Paul Densmore, who passed on September 30th. So just about 2 weeks ago, and 2 weeks shy of his 98th birthday. So I would ask that members of council and those in attendance would pay their respects with a moment of silence. And if you could all join me for that now, I would appreciate it.
Before we do that, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. There's been a lot of loss here recently outside my family and in the community of Gulf Manor, and a lot of, I'm aware that our own officer, McMillan, that her brother was involved as an officer himself in a tragic car accident, and is currently in critical condition in the local hospital. And I would like that moment of silence to be in support of her family, and there's more than that as well. And I have failed this evening to have your acknowledgement actually has reminded me of it, that I failed to get my talking points in order to address the other announcement that has been made. And maybe the village administrator, who sometimes tracks this better than I do, can speak to it. Former police chief?
In fact, Chief Campbell, I think you had worked with Patrick Colby. Did you want to speak on this?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. I was going to ask this group to keep the family of Patrick Colby in their thoughts and prayers. He was actually my first chief who hired me, got me started in law enforcement. He meant a lot to the law enforcement community, contributed to a lot of causes even after retirement, is a really major figure in the Cincinnati Police Museum. A lot of the items on display were from his collection, and he'll be missed.
Thank you, Chief. And if we could now, and thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. All right, thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to our fiscal officer, Mr. Lander, for his fiscal report.
Actually, that would be the village administrator.
I'm just going to keep skipping people. Is that all right?
That's okay. Couple of things. I'd like to give Mr. Donellan the title of Pitmaster. I'd like to thank him for providing the barbecue and for putting the time and effort into preparing a wonderful luncheon for us in appreciation of our employees, our volunteers in the village last Friday, October 9th. It was great. About 17 of us were able to get together, socially distanced, and have a good afternoon. So we were also able to have members of the Little Miami Fire District next door in Station 47 join us. So I appreciate that. Mr. Donellan, you are very special to us, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I enjoyed doing it. Thank you.
My report on Project 47 this evening is that we are still awaiting information from Little Miami Fire District on an inventory and some other items, so we are able to move to the next phase of our discussions and be able to report to council. I would like to, at least by the first council meeting in November, be able to share some recommendations or at least a pathway to council. That's the timeline that I'm looking at this point. We'll see if that information comes. But this evening, there will not be a need to do an executive session on that subject or for personnel and compensation. Vera Avenue construction is going to come up now probably for the next 12 months. I want to be able to make sure the council's aware of what's happening. Right now, engineering still continues. It's looking like the scope of the engineering is going to be a little bit longer than we thought. So bids for the project will probably go out sometime end of November, 1st of December. We'll let you know specifically when that comes up. Speed humps, I have reported to this body every meeting for the last couple of times that the speed hump project is going to start next week. And it hasn't started next week. And tonight I'm going to report to you that the project is going to start next week. I do have a firm date now, Monday, October 19th. They will be on the ground starting to do some of the construction to be able to seal the new asphalt to the speed humps. Chief Campbell and I will be out sometime in the next couple of days just to verify where the humps are going to go. And that project should be completed within 10 business days after they start. So hopefully that'll be done by the end of the month. One thing I wanted to mention today is aggregation, not aggravation, but aggregation. You may recall in November of 2014, the residents of the village of Gulf Manor approved the village hiring a contractor to represent us to provide aggregation for our gas and electric rates. The program has been successful. Just here in the municipal building, when we moved to aggregation 2.5, 3 years ago, it almost cut our energy bill in half, which was a huge accomplishment. In our new re-upping with that program, I'm very pleased to report that our residents now will receive 100% green energy. And that means it will be associated with the generation of electricity from renewable energy sources. So it's great now that we're also helping the environment on our electrical power generation, and we're also getting a good rate. This information is posted in its entirety on the website under the aggregation section. So if you ever run into residents or you get questions about aggregation, everything you need to know about it is there. What I would remind council is that although the village has provided this opportunity for people to get lower rates on gas and electric, we do not have anyone on site who is an expert in aggregation. So when residents have questions about wanting to compare rates or why their rate was calculated as whatever, we have a person with Energy Alliances that we will refer them to, but nobody here on site speaks aggregation. And that's clearly explained on the website. So since we probably see this aggregation information in our mailboxes every 6 months or so, because there are various companies who continue to solicit to get residents to go to other programs, aggregation is always coming up. So there's in addition to that, there are links to a lot of information on the Public Utility Commissions of Ohio's website. Another thing I'd like to make you aware of is we are in the middle of installing a new security system in the administration building. The touchless key fob system that we have has outlived its life. We are replacing it with another touchless key fob system, which we were able to fund under COVID funding. This will not only improve operations, so it won't be so clunky for us to be able to provide access to the building during off hours, but it also will allow us to centralize all of our electronic equipment back in the server room and take it where it's currently installed in Chief Campbell's office, which will allow us to take benefit of the automatic backup generator when power goes down. So this will be a plus for us. How it will impact council is it will provide new key fobs for you when we get to that point. So that's probably going to happen within the next 30 days that system goes online, gets tested, and then becomes fully operational for us. Finally, I want to mention that the webmail client that we use called OWA, which is Outlook Web Access, has outlived its usefulness. Some of the problems that our council members and our employees have had with making attachments to the OWA client is because that software is no longer compatible with the server version that we're using. So we are upgrading OWA, and we will be rolling out a new system for retrieving your email online through the internet. The best way, if you're able to do this, is to link your Gulf Manor email with your Outlook application on your computer, on your desktop, or with your mail application in, if you have an Android or an iPhone device. In either case, we'll have more information probably again within the next 30 days on that upgrade of that system. That is the end of my report for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Hurth. Are there any questions? All right, then I will not skip over Mr. Lanzer and ask for the fiscal.
No fiscal report this evening. I will do the full financial report for the month at the next council meeting. However, I wanted to make everyone aware that the census, the deadline to complete the census has been extended to October 31st. So please, there's still time. If anyone watching hasn't filled out the census, please do so. It's critically important to village funding and political representation. Also, an update, the service department, I will be conducting interviews, first round interviews of candidates for the part-time service position. Hopefully we have someone selected before we start leaves, which will be in a few short weeks. I think we have a couple good candidates, and I'm eager to learn more about them. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Lanzer. Does anyone from council have questions for Mr. Lanzer on his report?
Can I just ask about the census? Do we have a going percentage what Gulf Manor is at?
Yeah, we're currently at 68.2%. So the state average is 70, so we're a little bit below that, but compared to the the total 2010 response rate, we are now over 3% more than our response rate from 2010. So we're in the right direction. We still have opportunity, still have time, a few more weeks to get additional residents to complete their census. So please ask your neighbors, check in with your neighbors, friends who live in the village, just see if they've completed it or not. It is safe and secure and really easy to fill out. So hopefully we can increase that percentage a few more points.
Absolutely, and thank you for your efforts with that. And a reminder to anyone watching that didn't already know, the significance of the higher percentage here is that those the census is used to determine how much money goes to things like infrastructure, bus stops, and social services in a particular area. So it's very helpful to have more best accurate numbers on who's in the community, how many folks we got. So thank you to everyone for your efforts in getting that turnout increased. And if there are no other questions, Chief Campbell for the Mayor's Court report.
Yes, thank you again. Again, I just want to reiterate the passing of Chief Patrick Golby. He'll be missed. I also want to reiterate that we keep the family of Adam McMillan in your thoughts and prayers, along with his family and his sister who works for us. And I wanted to thank Terry for that luncheon on Friday. That was great. As to the Mayor's Court report for the month of September, there was a total of $2,623 that went to the village, $6,079.50 to the state, $22.50 to the other line, and that brings us to a total of $3,325. That is the end of the Mayor's Court report.
Thank you, Chief Campbell. Any questions from council?
Motion to accept the Mayor's Court report.
Is there a second? Is there a second?
That was a second. Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Without objection, I take that as unanimous. And thank you again, Chief Campbell. Chief Emmers for the Little Miami Fire District. Do you have a report this evening?
Yes, Mayor. First of all, Terry, I'm sorry I missed the luncheon. Unfortunately, I took a vacation day that day, so I missed that on the great food. But from what I heard, everything was good.
Well, there might be some leftovers still hidden somewhere over there. There was plenty.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is. Just a clarification on my report. It says that it ended 8:31. It should be 9:30 on my report on the top there. You have a copy of the runs that we made. Are there any questions? Hearing none. Just another thing. We talked before about needing paramedics. Well, we've been blessed with 2 new paramedics. One works at the 47s and one works over at the 66s. So we have 2 new medics. So that helps out a ton with getting at least 2 paramedics on a shift. So, and I have nothing other than that, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you again for the level of detail on that report. I had requested, following the previous report, for us to have a breakdown of the different types of runs to give our elected officials a better sense of what this looks like here locally out of Station 47, and it's fantastic. It was exactly what I was looking for. So thank you very much.
Good. Okay. No problem.
Any other questions from anyone? All right. With that, I'll ask for a second call for quorum for Mr. Lanzer.
Mr. Batcher.
Present.
Ms. Cheney.
Present.
Mr. Knipp.
Present.
Mr. Pridnoff,
Yes.
Ms. Snyder,
Present.
and Mr. Van Harn. All
Right.
members present.
Thank you. Our solicitor, Mr. Donellan, for
Thank you.
legislation and discussion.
Thank you. We have one piece of legislation on the agenda this evening. It's a resolution concerning the CARES Act funding. Can we have a motion to read that by title only, and then I'll explain it?
Motion to read by title only.
Second.
Do we need a roll call or
All in favor?
is all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Take that as unanimous without objection.
And this is resolution number 2020-16, a resolution authorizing a 2020 CARES Act local jurisdiction agreement. We need a motion, a second, and I will give a review for discussion and questions.
A motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
That's how we do a roll
Sorry,
call.
sorry, I apologize.
This is an additional round of funding that's come from the federal government to the state, and the state down to the county. And what the county has asked all jurisdictions to do is to enter into this local jurisdiction agreement. The nature of the agreement is to commit us to using the funding for specified purposes, to provide the accounting that's requested. And of course, there's a deadline on expending and appropriating those funds. As you recall, it might have been a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, we passed a resolution setting forth the guidelines and establishing our own local fund into which any of these monies will be received. Our guidelines for funding are basically expenses related to the negative impact that COVID has had on the community. So additional equipment, additional manpower costs, updating equipment that may be better utilized with the COVID crisis. So this is the county asking us with the new grant of an additional $52,000 to enter into this agreement. The resolution authorizes us to accept the agreement and Mr. Hirth to sign the agreement, and Mr. Hirth with Mr. Lanzer to execute any additional documents they may require for accepting the funding and expending the funding. Questions?
I have a question if there are no other questions to go prior to mine. So I have been sitting in on these local official, elected official meetings that Commissioner Driehaus has, and they give updates on this stuff coming out. And there's been over a very long time discussion over the Ohio Auditor's Office's interpretation of how funding can be used versus the United States Treasury's interpretation of how these fundings can be used. And my understanding at our most recent meeting was that they had come to a consensus over the more broad interpretation of how the funding can be used to even be used for payroll, because first responders, by their very nature, are dealing with COVID. So it's not just that they would have to be involved in a particular COVID activity, but just by the very nature of them being a first responder, some of this money could be used to offset payroll. I want to be clear, is this that bucket of money, or is it one with an agreement? Because I know that we still have to make an agreement with the county that we understand all the rules around using the money. And if you don't know, I can further investigate that with the commissioners.
Yeah, it's my understanding we had our first round come through. Ms. Lanzer was about 8 weeks ago.
We had at least it's been that long, and then we have had an additional round since then.
Yeah, and the first monies that came through, they wanted to funnel them very quickly to the local jurisdictions. And all they were asking us to do at the state level was to establish a special fund and acknowledge we would only use them for the qualified purposes. Since then, with these funding sources picking up a bit, that's when they've asked for this local jurisdiction agreement, which contractually binds us to create a special fund and to use it for the qualified purposes. The qualified purposes have kind of been ever evolving, and the thought is to go with the broader interpretation of qualified purposes and leaving it to each jurisdiction to justify why they believe that purpose is qualified for that particular jurisdiction. Some jurisdictions have been hit very hard with overtime expenses, first responder expenses. Other jurisdictions that have good reserves, they're able to pay for it from the reserves, but what they're able to do is maybe use that money outreach into the community to provide grant funding to businesses. So again, the purpose right now is becoming very, very broad, saying, you tell us what you need to do to spend this money to deal with the pandemic. I think there's probably a veto once you submit your request if it's way out of bounds, but almost all communities are just trying to play catch up with the added expenses that they've had.
So on Wednesday of this week, the Center for Local Government is hosting an administrators roundtable, particularly on this subject. We've been trading back and forth some of the uses that have been designated by some of the communities. When it comes to payroll, since the mayor specifically mentioned that, the general guideline has been if it is reimbursing us for COVID hours, we can claim that for reimbursement. However, we cannot actually replace or create additional payroll for a person that is not directly related to somebody who was affected by COVID. One of the jurisdictions wanted to give bonuses to their first responders, and that came back as a definite no, that cannot be done. What I've asked for Chief Campbell to do is to go back and take a look at overtime that was incurred since the pandemic started, to see if there's anything there that we haven't charged to COVID funding. Fortunately, we only use less than 20 hours of payroll for COVID for people who were actually ill, which I think is really fortunate, considering the number of people who were exposed at various times in our police department. And actually, it's just amazing at this point.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have some more clarification after I attend that meeting on Wednesday.
Yeah, I would request that you specifically ask about that, and I'll specifically ask in my meeting tomorrow about it, because my understanding was that what you described was the earlier kind of slap down that the state was giving, was saying, no, it has to be for a specific COVID activity that your employees were involved in. But the U.S. Treasury was giving a more broad interpretation of that, in that recently the state AG came around on that and said that, if you have your budget and this additional money coming in can be used to offset salaries of first responders, that by their very nature, you can say that what they do all the time involves stuff that this money can be used for. And thereby you can shift your budget around using this money coming in to offset payroll to then free up for other purposes, which, as I said, if they're saying we can do that gives us a very broad range of flexibility with our budget under this. So I'll ask some more about it tomorrow, and would ask that you ask them very clearly during their assistance that they're providing on Wednesday. Thank you for all the work that you've done, both you and Mr. Lanzer, getting clear on all this. Appreciate it.
If there's no other questions, then we need a roll call vote.
Mr. Lanzer?
Right. Mr. Betcher?
Yes.
Ms. Chaney?
Yes.
Mr. Knipp?
Yes.
Mr. Pridnoff?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mr. Van Harn?
Yes.
Looks like unanimous. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, all members are in favor.
And I have nothing else to report.
Thank you, Mr. Dowland. And Ms. Snyder, Chair of the Executive Committee, do you have a report?
Yes, I do. We met tonight, and it's hard to believe, but we are already setting our priorities for 2021. So far, those are identified as working on the We Thrive initiative, whether that be through a separate committee that is formed or that responsibility going to a current committee. We feel that's important to start working on. Additionally, parking in the village has always been an issue, but lately it seems more of an issue, or confrontations between neighbors are getting a little worse. And so Ms. Cheney, Mr. Hirth, and the chief and I will be getting together to discuss the police enforcement of parking laws, and perhaps other ideas that we can come up with to help alleviate that issue. And then finally, garbage negotiations. Our contract is up with Rumpke, and we will need to put out an RFP soon and review all of those bids that come in. And that is the end of my report.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Are there any questions from the council?
I have one question. Was the Hamilton County Recycling involved in trying to deal with Amberley to help us with the leaves? I can't remember. I know we talked to them and we had the issue where it wasn't going to work. I wonder if that could be revived any way with their help. I just don't remember. I just trying to get some clarity.
Yeah, I can answer that. So yes, Hamilton County Solid Waste was the one who created the contact and set up the meeting between myself and my counterpart over in Amberley Village, as well as arranged a tour. I have informed Hamilton County Solid Waste that it doesn't look like that's a viable option for us, and we are exploring other options. The challenge will be, while exploring other options, it's leaf collecting time. So any other option likely that we can come up with probably won't be able to impact our operations until next year.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I speak a little bit on the garbage contract?
Yes, thank you.
One of the things that I mentioned in the executive committee, and I want to make sure that all the council members are aware, we're coming off of an 8-year contract with Rumpke. We initially contracted for 5 years and then did an extension for 3 years. The reason we did the extension was because waste collection had gone up significantly from when we had originally negotiated our contract. My concern is we are probably looking at sticker shock, possibly, as we go into this new negotiation. The other thing that we want to keep in mind is that curbside pickup of brush and also the leaf collection is very labor intensive and expensive for the village to do. We are going to work with Hamilton County Solid Waste in negotiation of our Rumpke contract to also try and include some parameters of recycling both the yard waste and the leaves throughout the year. The other thing that we're also concerned about is, I'm not sure about the rest of you, but my small green recycling can no longer lasts 2 weeks. I always have extra stuff. So one of the things that we're going to be looking at is trying to get additional support for being able to collect more recyclable stuff as we all get better at that. So that's something that we will probably kick off in February. We'll have to have those negotiations completed most likely by the beginning of the third quarter next year. So everything can take effect on October 1st of 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Hirth. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Snyder, for your report. And Ms. Cheney, do you have an education report?
The only thing is LSDMC is meeting this Wednesday at 3 o'clock I'm not sure I'll be able to make that meeting, but I can get a report from somebody else. And the 3rd through 8th graders start school tomorrow. And then the older kids go next week. That's all I know.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Cheney. Any questions from council? All right. Thank you for your report, Ms. Cheney. Mr. Pridnoff, nonprofit report. Is there a report?
No report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pridnoff. And Fire District, Mr. Van Harn, is there a report?
I believe there's no report. We're meeting on, is it the 21st
Yeah, it's 21st at 6 p.m.
at 6 p.m.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Van Harn. Community engagement, Mr. Knipp, is there a report? All right. No, I'm presuming that's no report.
No report. Thank you. Sorry. Can't work a computer. Got to be smarter than a 5th grader.
Mr. Betcher, Finance Committee report.
No report.
All right, thank you. And with that, several announcements before I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Those are, our next council meeting is scheduled for Monday, October 26th at 7 p.m. The remaining dates for council and committee meetings in 2020 are Monday, November 9th, 7 p.m. Monday, November 23rd, 7 p.m. That's appropriations for 2021. Monday, December 14th, 7 p.m. If there's no pending business, we're looking at not actually having that one, but we have it on the books right now. And then Monday, January 11th, 2021, 7 p.m. will be our first in the new year. Any other comments before motion to adjourn?
Just real quick, Mr. Mayor, the Planning Commission report that there was no report, but we are scheduled to meet Monday, November 2nd at 6:30 pending any business.
Did I skip that?
Yeah,
I apologize.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe just piggybacking on that, we had an inspection last week, a follow-up inspection from the Planning Commission several months ago when we had a property that was up for condemnation. That's the Bean property on Weehee Road. Assistant Chief Putoff and Officer Matthews and I met over at the property, walked around it, and I am in conversations with Mr. Bean about our next steps. So hopefully I'll have a report at our next meeting as to where we are with that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Donlan. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I will take that as unanimous without objection. Thank you, everyone, for your service. Have a great evening.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.